Well, Heidi ho, hey, hey, Stampers, it's Anne. So glad you could pop in tonight. I've got a fun project to show you. This is not an original project that I came up with. Shannon West, who is a Stampin' Up! Employee, one of our demonstrator development managers, she came up with this, and I just think it's so cool. I did my own template out of a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to share that all with you later. So what we're going to do tonight, I'm going to show you how a half a sheet of designer series paper can make all of these cards. Now, I'm going to actually cut some different designer series paper so you can see how I did it. So this is the Forever Greenery designer series paper. And I just love this paper. And this is what I'm going to be cutting tonight. Now, what I like to do is use 2 full sheets of the designer series paper, because then you get 8 different patterns that you can use to make cards. If you want to just use 1 sheet and then you'll have 4 different pieces, or you can use them all. The reason I'm going to cut this up tonight is because I think this will make beautiful Christmas cards. Now, one thing to show you before we get going, this is 2 other sheets from the paper pack. And what I wanted to point out is you need to be mindful of the way your pattern goes on your paper. I could make this work, but not using the template the way it is, because typically this pattern you would mount on a card this way. Same thing with this one. I used these pieces for something else, so I'm not going to use them on this template. So let me bring in and show you. The template is under here, and I just want to show you how all of these pieces fit on here. And I'm going to actually be using these pieces from the Ornate Garden because I've already cut my card bases and everything. But let's take those off. Here is the template that I made, and when this video is done and I've posted it, I'm going to actually post a picture of this template, and it's got the measurements in inches so you can create one for yourself. All right, so I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all of these pieces, these 4 pieces, at 6 by 12, which is just in half of the designer series paper. And then I'm going to just, for ease of cutting, I'm going to take one of my pieces and then we're going to cut it up. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is cut on the long edge at 4.5 inches. And I'm going to set this other piece aside. Then I'm going to need 6 pieces that are cut at 1.5 by 3. So I'm going to rotate this piece to 3. And then it'll still be 4 on this. And then I'm going to put these in my trimmer, and I'm going to chop these at 1.5. So there's the first one, and there's the second one. So now I've got 6 pieces. which would, if we put them right back in here on the template, I don't have them obviously in the order that I cut them, but it doesn't matter. So I would have those 6 pieces. And out of those pieces, then when we had our second 6x6 piece, we would make 4 cards. Okay, now we've got this big piece left, and I'm going to cut this at 4 inches. All right, then on the bottom, I'm going to cut off 3/4 of an inch. And using my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, the measurements are so easy to see. All right, then I'm going to need 4 1-inch strips. And this lengthwise is going to be 5 1/4. Remember, we started out with 6, and so 1/4 plus 3/4 is 1. So that's how we get back to 6. So there's 1-inch piece. There is 2 inches. And here is 3 inches. And then the last piece will fall off. And we've got 4 pieces at 1 inch. And then we have our 4 by 3/4. Now we have this last piece. And I'm going to cut this at 1 3/4. Let me make sure I've got that right. Yes, 1 3/4. And then I'm going to cut this in half at 1 1/2 because it was 3 to start with. So that'll be in half. Okay, then these two are going to be cut in half at 2 1/4. So then I've got all of my pieces. And what I would do is then I would come in and I would take my next half sheet. I would cut them all the exact same way. So with designer series paper, it's thinner than regular cardstock, so you can cut your multiples all at once. All right, so that is the cutting we're going to need because I have prepared all of this ahead of time, so you can just have the benefit of watching me put them together, but I won't be cutting it all. Okay, we're going to make actually 11 cards. So what you would need to do is pick your cardstock that matches your designer series paper. Now I'm using the Ornate Garden, so I've picked my terracotta tile, my old olive, and my mint macaron. Now I wanted to show you, this is actually bumblebee paper that I'm going to be using too, but I had already chopped up a bunch of my bumblebee paper from my stamp club, so I didn't have half sheets and full 8.5 by 11. No worries. What you do is you just take your neutral base, Whisper White. I like to use the thick because it works better with layers. Then just cut a piece at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Adhere it to this, and you've got your card base. So even if you just have a small piece of it and you need that color, just go ahead and use it. Okay, so the other thing you're going to need, and I'm going to, again, put this all on the comments when I'm done here, so you'll be able to have everything you need. You will need 4 pieces of either Whisper White or Very Vanilla. You could actually, if you wanted, use a color, because we're going to layer the pieces onto this white, then we're going to layer them onto the cardstock. The other thing I've done ahead of time, and this, when we put these together tonight, I'm not going to use ribbon because I want you to see that if you're just getting started, or let's say you want to send out 100 cards to your friends that are stuck inside all quarantining, you can make these so quickly. So I used this punch and scraps of Whisper White cardstock, and I punched out 11 of these. Then I took my Jar of Flowers stamp set, and I actually used this image right here. Let me pull it out. Right here, I put that on a block, and then I just stamped in the corner here of my label. On this one, I stamped pretty much on the whole thing. On this one, in the top. It really doesn't matter how you stamp them, and if you don't want to stamp them, you can just leave them plain. Then I love this Comfort and Hope stamp set. It's a new stamp set in our catalog. This little greeting right here, sending you a paper hug. This is something that I just love. I think that anybody you want to send a paper hug to, right? And I did. So that's what I stamped on all of these, and I used my Memento, whoops, let's turn that around, my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Again, simple. You could put all sorts of different colors, and I just used the terracotta on all of them because this paper that I'm using, the Ornate Garden, has terracotta on pretty much all of the patterns. So then what I did is I just grabbed these pieces here, the 1.5 by 3 inch pieces, and I remember I used 4 12 by 6 half sheets. So that meant I had all of these different pieces which I could match up. So that is what I did. I just pulled them out and decided, okay, which ones I thought were pleasing. Now I'm going to bring in my new Stampin' Seal. I love this adhesive. It gives us the benefits of a stronger adhesive. There's more in this. You just pop this case open to pop in a refill. So I'm going to, let me make sure I get it on the right side, and I'm going to just start putting these right on my paper here. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a border, about 1/8 of an inch here. Then I'm going to come over, and I like to put the one on the right side next, because that way I have a little fudge factor in the middle. All right, then this is going to be my last piece, and I'm going to go ahead and just whip down my adhesive and pop this right in the middle. All right, now I'm going to pick my pre-cut terracotta tile. I'm going to grab my bone folder, and I'm going to just give this a good crease. Then, just like I did on this card, I'm going to come in here. If you wanted, you could pop this up with dimensionals on the back. I am typically putting this flat because when I mail it off to people, the flatter it is, the less postage you'll have to spend. All right, so let me move this up here. Then I'm going to grab one of these pre-cut sentiments, and I'm going to put that right in the center. I will do one with dimensionals so you can see it. Okay, now you'll notice on this one I did put ribbon that matched. As I mentioned, I'm not going to do that on this one, but voila, I am going to stick on a couple of rhinestone jewels here. I'm going to put one here, I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to just grab one and put it over here. Normally, I would use my take your pick tool for grabbing those rhinestones, but I forgot to bring it out here, so I'm just going to do it plain. All right, let me do one more of these. Let's grab this one. Again, all of these patterns go together. It's the same colors. Obviously, it's different flowers, but I've already adhered this one down, but that doesn't really bother me. I think it looks cool having all these different patterns, okay? So we're going to just slip that on here and then give it a little more of our seal and put it right on here. You could also, if you wanted, use the multi-purpose adhesive here. The advantage with using this, if you just squiggle it on the back, if you need to move something, you have a little bit more time to do that. With the Stamp and Seal, you can still remove it. Let me just kind of show you. Can you see there that nice bond? It hasn't been on there that long. If for some reason it is sticking, you just have to breathe on it, and that gives you a little moisture, and you can flip it off. Okay, now on this one, I am going to take my mint. Actually, I think I'm going to use my Old Olive. Again, my prepared card base. I don't want to use that one though, because I'm going to show you the other card with that, and I've already scored it. Okay, so here is my Old Olive. Again, I'm just going to put this right down on the front. You could even use neutral cardstock. You could use Sahara Sand. You could use Whisper White. You could use Very Vanilla. You could use Gray. I mean, there's so many options here. Okay, now I'm going to grab my dimensionals over here. I'm going to use the mini ones just because, again, when I mail it, there will be less bulk in the package. I'm also tonight working on getting my pre-order together. Demonstrators get to pre-order out of the holiday catalog, and you know, there's actually a little bit of time left. If you want to sign up, you can get $125 worth of products for $99 plus. You can actually pick any tool bundle that has a stamp and a die or a stamp and a punch in the catalog. If you go to my annbrown.stampinup.net and click on the join button, you'll find more info about that. Okay, back to business here. Okay, so there is 2 cards that we've done. Now, remember, we were making 4 of these, so I still have this material left and my card bases to do those, but you would do them exactly the same way. And again, I'll show you in the ones I already completed. 1, 2, 3. Here, I actually used 2 pieces of 1/4-inch ribbon in the Bumblebee and the Old Olive. And on this one, I use the ribbon and the pearls. I mean, you could also run this card base through the embossing machine. There are so many different options to do with this. Okay, moving right along now. The next group, we would also make 4 of them, is using these long strips here. So let me pull those in, and they are right here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, we used our card base, but what we did is we scored one end of this at 1 1/4. So what you're going to end up with when you do that is, let me get my bone folder so you can see it here. Where this 1/4 inch is, we are going to fold that back where we've scored it. And what you could do if you wanted, you could wrap ribbon around this whole card, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put some adhesive on here, and then I am just going to let that lay flat, and that way it will fit much better in the envelope. It won't be as bulky. And then again, what you start doing is you just get your pieces that you want to put on your paper. And I'm just totally grabbing random ones here. Okay, and on the inside, again, I'm going to just come in about 1/8 of an inch, which is a good rule of thumb. And then as you can see here where that 1 1/4 inch is, this is our piece, if you remember, was 1 inch. So if you do 1/8 of an inch, you will have an equal border all the way around it. Okay, so let's get that even. Then I would take, again, one of my little sentiment pieces, pop it here. Whoops, maybe we'll put it right side up on the card. And I'm going to grab some jewels again, but this time I am just going to put them on. Whoops, that one just got away. Come back here, you little fella. I'm going to just put those on the card. I put 3, you could do 5. I learned a long time ago from an actual artist who was a customer of mine. She said when you're putting embellishments and things like that on a card, if you do them in an odd number, it's more pleasing to the eye. Who knew? All right, so let's grab another card base here that I've prepared. Remember, it's our 8 1/2 by 5 inch card base, scored at 1 1/4 inches. Fold that back, and then again, I'm going to just flatten this back so it'll be easier to go in the envelope. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab couple more pieces that I think go with this. So, like this, I've got my daisies and then I've got my other piece. So let's put on my adhesive. I just love this snail. It rolls out so nicely. It glides, actually, which is just so awesome. And there's more in the spool than there was on the snails, so that's awesome too. All right, and here again, we've got our little sending you a paper hug. I'm going to put it down flat, and I'd probably put some more rhinestones on this, but again, I'm not going to do it right now. As you can see on this one, I used a little bit of trim. I actually had some jewels left over from a paper pumpkin kit that I put on there. So that then you'd have your 4 cards. And if you are asking me questions, I will answer them when this video is over. Sometimes I get distracted and I don't want to forget things that I'm showing you in our project when I'm looking at comments and saying, hi, so-and-so. So that's what I'm going to do here. Okay, now let's grab the template. So now we're going to be using these pieces here, our 3.5 by our 2 1/4. And I've got some already cut. And they are going to go right on the card like this. Now, we're not going to have this gap in the middle. And after I get my adhesive down here, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with those. So, we're going to take care of that. All right, so let me kind of get this down. And the other thing I like about this is anybody can do it. You can mix and match these pieces. You don't have to, you know, if you're a perfectionist, this works for you. If you're a random stamper like I am, it'll work for you just as well. All right, so now let me find my little pieces. Okay, so here's one of my little pieces that we had on our template right here. Were you wondering what we were going to do with that? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to just take this piece and I'm going to put it right over where this gap is. Just like that. And then I'm going to come back with this one. I'm going to pop it up on this one. These little mini dimensionals are great. And if you have to pop out and go feed your kids or go for a run or whatever, I'm going to post this video, the recording when I'm done, so you can go back and watch whatever you missed. If you want to share it with your friends, then they can pop in too. Again, on this one, I put some of this terracotta colored ribbon on here, and I snuck 3 little jewels on there as well. So there is that one. Let me do one more of these as well. I'm going to grab my old olive. And can you imagine if you did these cards with a friend? You could do it on Zoom. If you're not quarantining, you could do it in person. And you could bring one pattern of designer series paper. Actually, you'd want probably 2 patterns if you're going to do it with a friend. And then you could share your paper card, or share your cards that you've made. And then you would each go home with different pieces. All right. And so here you could put it on like this. You could even make it really florally. I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to say it's a word. And we're going to put it right on there. We're going to grab one of our greeting pieces. And we're going to pop that down there. And voila! There's 2 of them. Easy peasy, simple. Now, if we had done all of these cards, we would have had 8 cards. Now, we would have gotten 4 from this. we would have gotten 4 from this, and we would have gotten 2 from this. So I told you we were going to make 11, and I am true to my word. Voila. Here's the last one we're going to do. So I'm going to take my terracotta, and don't go away when I finish this, because I'm going to show you something with 6x6 paper too that I discovered. I don't think Shannon went over this in her little demonstration, so we will just say that I came up with that idea all on my own. What do you think about that? So now on this one, the way this card is going to go, we are going to make a square. These are falling off of here, but that is not a problem at all. We are just going to start putting them on here, and I'm just going to lay one of them down here. Okay, then I'm going to grab another one, fit it in here kind of next to this, and I'm going to use this floral one right there, and I'm kind of eyeballing it. If you wanted to measure it, you can measure it and it'll be perfect. You can also, you can also use your grid paper. So if you were going to do that, you'd line it up, you know, here, you could line it up here, and then you could start matching your little squares in there. On this one, again, I just zigzag some ribbon under here, but on this one, I'm going to just pop down my sentiment piece. My adhesive roll is getting low. Good, I have a refill, huh? All right, and then this is ready to send someone a paper hug. Now, of course, you can put a neutral piece in the center here so you can write on it. And let me show you on this one too. I would probably cut a piece that would fit right in here too, so then it would be, you know, you'd have your white piece to write. A lot of times I just write right on here, especially if it's a light cardstock. At Christmas time, what I do, I take a gold gel pen or silver, and that works really neat too. Okay, so put on your thinking cap here, because I'm going to show you something fun now. All right, let me get these. I stuck my camera on there. Okay, so remember our template is 6 by 12. Well, in addition to being a half of a sheet of designer series paper, look what else. This is 2 pieces of 6 by 6 paper. So what you could easily do is put a piece of Scotch tape. Let me get a piece to show you. Okay, I'm going to take 2 little pieces of Scotch tape here, 1 and 2. Okay, so now what do I have? I have a sheet of 12 by 6 paper. Then I'm going to just start cutting it exactly like I did this other template. Now, before you ask, of course, where the seam is, you're going to have 2 skinny pieces. So you can either put those kind of on a card by themselves, like maybe, let's say this was our card front. You could put 1 piece here, you could put 1 piece here, you could put a strip here and a strip here, but all of the other pieces are going to end up just like we did with our 12 by 6. Now, you could also, let me show you this really quickly. I'm sure you've figured this out by yourself, but just in case it's been a long day, look here. You could also just match up these pieces and then do your cutting. Isn't that the coolest thing? And this 6x6 pack has so many different pieces in there that you just have a wealth of, different patterns that you can use. Well, that is what I have for you tonight. And like I said, I'm going to post my template and bigger pictures of my samples so you can see that, and a couple other measurements for you. If you have any questions, please put it on the Facebook, or you can email me at ann@stampmaven.com. You can text me at 214-293-4461, and I'll get back with you. If you need any supplies, you can go to annbrown.stampinup.net. And of course, if you've decided that this just looks like so much fun, you want to join the Stampin' Up! Family, you can do that there too. Okay, guys, I'll see you real soon. Thanks for popping in.